That's D, common terminology. Number 3, what are the 5 sections of ICS? Julio.
Incident commander, operations section, logistics section chief, planning section chief, finance admin section chief.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily the incident commander is not its own section, that's the person in charge, so it's the command or management staff, but right concept.
Number 4, which general staff position conducts tactical operations and directs all tactical resources?
Wayne?
Operating?
Yes, C, operations section chief. Number 5. Number 5. What incident facility is positioned outside of the present and potential hazards area, but close enough to the incident to maintain command?
Mina.
D.
Sorry?
D.
D, yes, the incident command post. Number 6. One ICS principle relates to the supervisory structure of the organization and pertains to the number of individuals or resources one incident supervisor can manage effectively. This operation guideline is referred to?
Span of control, B.
Yes, B, span of control. Number 7, which general staff position is responsible for providing services and support to meet operation needs?
Grace?
B. B.
Yes, B, logistics section chief. Number 8, in the ICS structure for CERT, who becomes the CERT incident commander / team leader?
Wayne Shen.
Yes, the first person on the scene, dog. Number 9, a news media team arrives at the incident and wants to obtain information for a live broadcast they are conducting in 15 minutes. Who handles inquiries from the media?
Bruce?
C is CERT IC team.
Yes, C. CC.
Then how come we saw Tom Chavez on the TV all the time?
He got posted.
Number 10, which general staff member is responsible for collecting and evaluating all situation information and status reports? Mia?
Yeah.
Mina.
D. Planning section chief.
Yes, correct. You guys do good? Yes?
Yeah, boy.
You guys have any questions in this section?
Just keep going.
Any questions? No questions?
At the end of this unit, you will be able to explain the role of CERTs in fire safety, to identify and reduce potential fire and utility risks, describe the CERT 5-step process, which is 9 steps. We did talk about this yesterday, and Freddie and I will be going into detail of what this size-up process is and what it entails. You'll be able to conduct the basic size-up for a fire emergency, explain the basic safety precautions, such as the safety equipment, utility control, the buddy system, and your backup team. Identify hazardous materials and extinguish small fires using a fire extinguisher. So, this unit will provide you with the knowledge and the skills you will need to reduce or eliminate the fire hazards and extinguish small fires. We're going to cover fire chemistry, fire and utility hazards in the home, workplace and your neighborhood, the CERT size-up, fire size-up considerations, firefighting resources, fire suppression safety, and then hazardous materials. So, what are our role as CERTs? Well, CERTs play a very important role in fire safety. You extinguish small fires before they become bigger fires. And you'll learn how to use a fire extinguisher and how to safely put out a fire that you feel that you can handle. And as a general rule of thumb, if you cannot put out a fire in over 5 seconds, then the fire is already too big to handle and you need to evacuate the area immediately. Under 5 seconds. Thank you. So you'll also be preventing additional fires by removing those fuel sources. And this process is called overhaul. You'll learn how to shut off utilities. I have some utilities on the table in front of you. We have a gas meter and an electrical panel, and I'll show you the proper way to shut those utilities off with the proper tools. You'll be assisting with evacuations where it is necessary and when necessary, and by evacuating the area and establishing a perimeter. So what are our priorities? What's number one for CERT? Well, number one is our safety. Our CERT, as CERT members, our safety is number one because, again, how could you help somebody else if you don't worry about your safety? You'll end up becoming a victim as well. So we want to help in the emergencies before those professional responders arrive. Our rescuer safety is number one priority. We always work with a buddy and we always wear our safety equipment. If we don't have our PPEs, our protective personal equipment, how are we going to be able to put out even a small fire? So these are things you have to think about and consider before even approaching a fire that seems relatively small. Our CERT goal, do the greatest good for the greatest number. So does anyone know what it takes for a fire to burn? Without looking at your slides. Michael.
You will be oxygen.
All right. I'm not going to give you a ticket because I think you looked at your slides for that.
No, I know.
All right, Michael's right. It does require heat, fuel, and oxygen. Heat required to elevate the temperature of that material to its ignition point. You have fuel. That fuel, it could be a solid, could be a liquid, but the type and the quantity of the fuel will determine how you extinguish that fire. And you have oxygen. A fire can burn in an atmosphere with only 20% oxygen. But if you take away that oxygen, you have the fuel and heat, which could be, which could be vaporized. It could be entirely vaporized, yet it will never become an actual fire because you don't have that oxygen. So if any of these elements is missing, the fire will simply extinguish. So what are the 5 classes? Yes.
So how about the wildfire?
The wildfire? Well, you have all the elements in the wildfire. You have the heat, you have the fuel, and you have the oxygen. It's in an open area. So the fuel is all the brush,
The trees.
everything.
Fuel,
The
brush.
trees. That's the
The
fuel.
houses, the buildings.
So it's not necessarily a liquid fuel that's there, but you have the brush.
Oh,
That's how it starts, a brush fire. You have the material there that's needed. Yes. Okay, so these are the 5 classes of fire. They're categorized on the type of fuel that's burning. So you have a Class A fire, and these are ordinary combustibles such as paper, wood, rubber, plastic. An easy way to remember this, Class A stands for ash because these things give off ash. You have the Class B fire, which is flammable and combustible liquids such as gas, kerosene. And an easy way to remember this is barrel, because Class B for barrel, these things are stored in a barrel. You have your Class C fires for energized electrical equipment. And this is like wiring and motors. An easy way to remember this is circuit, Class C for circuit. And if the power or the energy source for this is shut off, it turns into a Class A fire. You have your Class D for combustible metals. These are metals such as aluminum, magnesium, titanium, and these metals easily dent. So Class D for dent. And then moving on to Class K, which is cooking oils. Class K is for kitchen. And cooking oils, these are things that are stored in your kitchen, fatty oils. And that's why Class K is for kitchen, because these are usually oils stored in your kitchen. So this is an example of a Class A fire. An ordinary combustible, looks like the couch is on fire. Another example is actually a perfect example of what a Class A fire consists of, a bonfire. And again, you have the heat, you have the fuel, and the oxygen needed for that fire to exist. Example of Class B fire, flammable liquids. So what's a good way to remember Class B? Barrel. There we go. Another example of Class B fire. Class C, electrical fire. You have the outlet that caught fire. Another example of Class C. So how do you reduce these electrical hazards? You want to avoid the electrical octopus. What is the electrical octopus? This. Does anyone see anything wrong with these photos?
Looks like mine.
There you go. That's what you want to avoid. You don't want to run your cords under carpets. You want to check for and replace those broken or frayed cords that you may have. Pull the plug. Don't pull the cord out of the wall. And extension cords are always temporary solutions. You always want to maintain your appliances and don't plug power strips into other power strips. So these are simple things that you can do to reduce all the electrical hazards like this. I can only imagine what could happen in that situation. What about this picture?
Nice.
That looks relaxing, right? In the summer, you have a nice little table in the middle with all your electrical outlets plugged in. Does that seem like a hazard to you guys?
Looks like they're at the door.
I hope nobody has done this. So even though we take those steps to prevent emergencies, they sometimes do occur. So every member of your household should be aware of the following procedures in the event of a real emergency. You should know where your power shutoffs are for your appliances, your circuit breakers, and some people even have old fuse panels that they should know where the shutoffs are for that. You want to post shutoff directions next to all utilities. In an emergency, some people might not remember how you told them to shut off that power. So it's good to have something next to it telling them how exactly to do it. And know the procedures for turning the power back on. Does anyone know how to turn off an electrical meter correctly or an electrical the circuit box correctly? Does anyone know the correct procedure? William? Bill?
Find the main switch and turn it off.
How to turn it off. You want to turn off the individual breakers first, not the main switch. And the reason for this is when you go to turn off that power again, you might blow a fuse. You might overload the circuit with power. You might blow an appliance inside. So to turn it off correctly, you want to turn off those individual breakers first before you turn off that main power. And to turn it back on, you want to do the opposite. So you would turn on the main power first and then the individual breakers. So you have the power on, but you're not overloading the circuit by having all the individual breakers on first and then turning on the main power. So you want to turn it off, individual breakers first, and then the main, turn it on, the opposite, the main and then those individual breakers. So this is an example of electrical panels. On the left you have a circuit breaker, and that's traditionally what's used in most houses, but on some you have fuse panels, which is the one displayed to the right. And the fuse panels are very different from just a traditional circuit breaker. You turn it off the same way. You would turn off the individual ones first and then the main, but with these you would have to unscrew. You actually unscrew the fuse. So it's a little bit different, and it's good to know because you might be trying to turn off power for your neighbor and they might have an old school fuse panel that you may not know how to turn off. So right here, this is a, it's not real, there's no power running through this. But this is a circuit breaker. I mean, on the break, you can come up here, play around with it and see if this is something that you have. I mean, you may have the fuse panel, but it's something good to know. How the switches feel. It's kind of hard to turn on even for me. So it's good to know how the switches feel when they're, when you're turning them on or off.
Which one's the main,
The main's always on top.
Oh.
Some are different. This one's the main's really small. On the one I have at home, the main is huge and it's bigger than all the others, and you can definitely tell that it is the main source of power. But it's always at the top right here,
Which ones are the breakers?
at the bottom, right here. These are the breakers. Okay. So let's move on to natural gas. So what are the hazards for natural gas? Well, natural gas is an asphyxiant. It basically suffocates you. It robs your body of oxygen. And it is explosive and can very, very easily ignite. So what are some hazards that you should be aware of? Well, you should install natural gas detectors in your home. Install those carbon monoxide detectors in your home. Who here changes the batteries every 6 months? A few people. It's always something that you should do. You should always be checking the batteries every single month and changing them out every 6 months. You want to locate and label those gas shutoffs. And when you're shutting off your gas, have the proper non-sparking tool. So So again, locate and label low gas shutoff valves. And some people have automatic gas shutoff. When there's an earthquake, the gas shutoffs automatically. But if you don't have that, you should always know those procedures for shutting off gas correctly. So how many of you would shut off gas if there was an earthquake? If there was an earthquake, would anybody shut off gas? A few of you?
But the question is, how do you know the valve is on
You have something installed,
Yes.
you installed it.
Yes. So the gas company would have installed the automatic shutoff. So you as a homeowner would know if it was automatic. If you don't think it's automatic, then most likely it's not, and you would have to shut it off yourself. Okay? So going back to shutting off your gas if there's an earthquake, you shouldn't. You should not turn off your gas. Only if you see, smell, hear, or see it. So if you don't smell gas, if you don't hear the gas, coming through the pipe, or if you don't even see it, you shouldn't be turning it off. And the reason for this is, we went through earlier, Temple City has, over 12,000 households. That's just residential households in the city. So what if every single person in the city shut off their gas? How long do you think you would be you wouldn't have gas? Because once you shut it off, only the gas company can come back and turn it on. So how long do you think it would take for them to get to you to turn your gas back on? Take a while. For 12,000 households in the city, it take a really long time. So again, you should only turn it off if you smell, hear, or see it. Smell, natural gas has no odor. It's odorless, but there's an additive in natural gas. It smells like sulfur. It's that rotten egg smell that you smell, and that's an additive. So usually it doesn't have any smell at all. And here, gas is under pressure. So if the pipe is broken, or if gas is coming out of those pipes, you would hear a whistling sound. You would definitely hear the gas coming out of those pipes. See it? When I say see, it's kind of hard to see gas. Gas is transparent, but sometimes you see a mirage. If the gas, is leaking that much, you would see a mirage, like a fine mist of vapor coming out of those pipes. So this is a gas meter. I have one right up here. That's demonstration purposes only. You have the on and off, the shut-off valve. You have the meter, the pressure regulator. These are all things that you should know where they're at. Because if you're trying to shut off the gas, but every appliance is turned off, and you don't know whether your gas is leaking, you don't smell, you don't hear, you don't see it, but the meter, the gas meter, the front right there, you can still see that the gas is flowing through your home without any appliances being turned on. That's when you should turn off your gas as well. So let me do a demonstration for you guys on how to shut off the gas. So this is the non-sparking tool as we talked about. This is different features to it. This is for the gas. This is how you should shut off your gas. So right now, I'm going to turn this so you guys can see. Right now the gas is on. And to remember this, you have this going straight up and down. There's no blockage. You don't know, the gas isn't being blocked by anything. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to turn off your gas. For me, it's kind of hard to turn this. But you just turn this here, put this in, and pull it up. So it creates a T. So it's blocked. So that's an easy way to remember it. Okay? So, and also the circles line up. So I'll turn this back on so you guys can do a demonstration. Okay. On a side note, if you're shutting off your gas, don't use a candle or match. Always use a flashlight. So again, your safety is number one. You have to be smart when dealing with these things. You don't want to become a victim yourself.
Question. Why do you need the gas company to come and turn back on your gas if you shut it off because you didn't smell anything, but you just shut it off as a precaution?
Most people aren't familiar with how to turn on their pilot lights for their water heater, their forced air heaters, and any other appliances that do take natural gas. When they're shut off, sometimes you need to verify if there's leaks. If you're knowledgeable in doing it, you can. We don't encourage it. If you have a plumber in the family, they can probably assist you with that. But the average person doesn't know how to relight those furnaces, the water heaters, and also how to detect if there's any leaks. from those natural gas appliances. And so they do have the equipment to do it, and to make sure that it is safe for you to reside in that residence.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm still, maybe the same question. So if we turn it off, the gas pipe, the gas meter, and then we don't find any problem, so why?
No, you don't turn it off if there's no.
Yes.
You don't turn it off
Yeah,
unless there's a problem.
Just, for example, just.
So say
at
if
the
you're not-
beginning, Yeah, we're not sure or accident,
You turn.
turn it off.
Right.
So, but then later we find no problem. Maybe the level for the gas meter is leaking, right? You just come over this side.
Well, in an emergency, if you're not sure if everything's okay, you should always turn off the gas. If you think that you smell it, or if you think you hear, the gas is leaking, then you should definitely turn it off. This is for, emergency events. When I say that, only the gas company can turn it on, because you don't know if everything's okay. Unless you're a trained professional, in dealing with, infrastructure damage. Unless you're trained in that, then that's kind of the only way you would know if any pipes are leaking or if there is gas in your house. So when I say the fire extinguishers, they're usually found in commercial kitchens, because that's where they do a lot of cooking, and they may have larger fires than you would have in your home. But you should always have a fire extinguisher rated for that in your kitchen.
And since we're talking about kitchen fires, who knows 2 ways for raffle tickets, 2 ways that you can put out a kitchen fire in your own home?
Smother
Smother it with,
a
Lid?
lid.
okay,
Taking away what part of the triangle, the 3 of them, taking away the oxygen source.
and what's the other way, Mike?
Oh, I don't know.
Taking away oxygen. Smothering you, taking away oxygen.
Baking soda, baking powder, pouring, Ignacio said pouring baking powder on it, and again, that smothers the fire, as Bruce said. And so that
throw flour, like.
flour is, well, just you want to make sure that what you're throwing on is not a flammable material. And so there are some cooking powders that may be flammable that you throw on there, and it may kind of quickly ignite, so be cautious on what you're throwing on there.
How about the blanket, just completely cover it and isolate?
Not on a, because if you put a blanket on a grease fire, it's going to catch on fire.
Right.
Yeah. So you want to put something that's going to smother it. The best is to put a lid on a hotter pan. First removing it from the heat source. So if you're able to take it off the fire on the stove or turn off that fire, do that, and then you smother it.
Okay. Ticket.
Ignacio.
Alright guys, let's move on to the interior wet stand pipe. And I kind of explained these, but we don't have these in the city because we don't have large commercial buildings, we don't have high-rise apartment buildings. But when you're using these, you want to work in 2-person teams. You want to have someone roll out the hose, make sure there's no kinks, and 1 person at the nozzle. And then that first person will tell the second person, okay, turn on the water source. And then that's what they'll do. So there's always someone at that nozzle for those wet stand pipes. And then the second person will go and back up that first person at the nozzle. And if these are inaccessible, if you can't find a fire extinguisher, or you don't have the time, confinement's also an option. By closing off, exterior and interior doors, that will prevent the fire from spreading. Just like, the condos that went up in Temple City, the firefighter said that the guy closed the garage door, and that was why the fire didn't spread as much as it did. So confinement is always an option that you should always be considering when you're dealing with fire. So fire suppression safety. Safety is CERT members is top priority. And these are our CERT members using that buddy system to put out a fire during that simulation. So what are the safety rules? Always use your safety equipment. Use your PPEs. If you don't have them, then you shouldn't be trying to stop that fire from spreading. Work with your buddy, because your buddy will protect your safety from things that you might not be able to see. So never try to fight a fire alone. Always have a backup team. Whenever as possible. A backup team will support your fire suppression efforts and provide help when you need it. Always have 2 ways to exit the fire area. You don't want to have your one escape route blocked and then you're trapped. Look at the door. If air is being sucked under the door or smoke is coming out from over the door, do not touch the door. That means the fire is right at that door. And then if there's no smoke or you don't see anything being sucked under the door or smoke coming out from over the door, you want to fill those doors with the back of your hand. That's only if you don't see that smoke being, blown out from under the door or sucked in from under the door, excuse me. So when you're filling the door, you work from the bottom up. Start from the bottom and work your way to the top before you touch the door handle. And then if the door is not hot, then you can proceed to touch the door handle if it's safe. But don't automatically touch that door handle because that door handle may be really hot. Confine the fire by closing those doors. Stay low to the ground. Since smoke rises, if you stay low to the ground, you'll have fresher air to breathe, so you won't be suffocating from that smoke that's trapped towards the ceiling. Maintain a safe distance. Don't get closer than necessary to extinguish a fire. Never turn your back on a fire when backing out, and always overhaul the fire. And that's basically cooling, soaking, and separating the fire. So you pull the fire once it's down, you soak it with whatever you have, a fire extinguisher, and you separate the material. So you make sure that that fire is overhauled and that fire will stay out. Because you want to search for hidden fire or sparks so that fire, it won't rekindle. So, what you should do during fire suppression is just as important as what you should not do during fire suppression. So don't get too close. Again, if you feel the heat, you're too close to that fire. Don't try to fight a fire alone. Use your buddy. Your personal safety is first priority. Don't try to suppress large fires or fires that are clearly too large for the equipment that you have. Do not enter smoke-filled rooms because this requires equipment that CERT members that we do not have. So this is an example of how quickly a fire can spread. At 2 minutes, 40 seconds, you have a small amount of flames at the bunk bed, but at 4 minutes, that whole bunk bed's engulfed in flames. So who here would try to fight fire at 4 minutes? Nobody should. Because at that point, it's too to handle and you should be evacuating that area immediately. But at 2 minutes, 40 seconds, who would feel comfortable trying to extinguish that fire? Some of us would. Some of us would. But if you're not comfortable and you feel that that fire is too big to handle, then you should again evacuate that area immediately and get yourself to safety and your family as well. Every year you have to change it. Yes, that's why, exactly. Every single year you have to have someone come out and they have to sign off and refill it.
You don't want to damage them.
But some are smaller than others, like maybe some are smaller, you are
But
comfortable.
usually for circuit, right? Electrical.
Residential, they don't require fire,
expensive.
in the house,
So the
no,
ones
they
that
don't.
the cops have or.
We have one in City Hall,
I have an
it's
ATC
huge,
one.
like it's huge, like I can barely take it off the wall, so something like that is not something I'd go
Ash.
for. So if I see something like this, I
Our
go for
department
something
obviously will have more because
small, like
we
this.
do have some
So the one we
electronic
have at
cards.
City Hall is
This is the actual trigger, the one on the top.
You know, or they're gonna have.
yeah, this is what you
Flying.
use, because this is the handle right here,
I
and
have
then
an
you
ATC,
can
I'm
squeeze
not
this,
sure
and that's
what
where you pull the pin, and it allows you. You can go ahead, have at it, yeah, this one, see, this is what you would squeeze, you squeeze down, that's why the pin blocks it. It depends, some may last, 10 seconds, where others, the smaller ones, the ones you put in your car, they might not last that long, they're really small, or something like this, it might be able to put out, 3 or 4 small fires. But you don't want to be going into rooms and trying to fight fires that are
Well, and that's a liquid,
way too
so take care of it. But you know what?
it's just like when we go outside, we're not gonna be out there for a couple minutes.
For even
It's
the
just
fire
gonna be a couple
extinguisher.
seconds. Well, turn off the water is really easy.
That's only the
Really
last one.
simple to turn off the water. You just open up your water box and you just turn it off. Same as this. It's not gonna be a strong valve like this. It's underground. But it's not going to be a valve like this because it's really hard. This is you have to turn it really.
On the box that you purchased it with, or
strength because this is really hard for gas, especially when it's leaking, they want it to be harder rather than easier. Whereas
You can see the rush, I saw that, but somehow I see some rush or smell or you see.
right.
That's, it's leaking.
Right. So I mean, this tool, it may be easier to use you know, when
Just go
shutting
into
it
the
off,
kitchen, make
because
sure
you
you
have
get
kind
one
of more
that's
leverage
clean.
here, and you could
This
turn
won't
it,
work.
you know, more than you could.
Okay.
So this one, it might be better
Usually
because
they're
it's
white.
bigger, because this is small.
They're usually white,
And then,
not red.
you know,
That's
you
why I
could
asked you
even
what color
use
you
something
had.
like this, to turn it off,
Okay, yeah.
something that's
So
a
you
little
don't have-
more.
Use that in the kitchen.
It's gonna spread.
And then you can just pull that.
So you wanna get
So
the
it
one
might
that's
be
K
better
at
to
Home
use
Depot.
something like
They're
that.
gonna be white.
But when you're trying to turn off the gas, you know, you won't be looking for things like this.
You guys wanna, you guys feel comfortable with the
You wanna
gas?
try? It's hard. I mean, you can see. I don't think so. It's hard even with, you know, pliers or something like that.
Which you guys are also gonna be doing shortly. But before we get started, how many tickets should I give away? Maybe like 2 or 3 tickets I'll give away. Let's say 3. We can go over what are at least the minimum that you should have in your PPE, personal protection equipment, or something.
I saw Michael.
Gloves, helmet, goggles.
A little more than that.
So I take it.
I see Sean, please. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Some more stuff.
What goes on your feet?
What are the minimum?
Shoes.
Alright, I'll just team effort, so.
Sturdy shoes.
30 shoes. Here you don't have the mask provided. We don't have enough masks to provide everyone. But yes, of course, you want a helmet, protect your head, eyes. So you need some goggles to protect your eyes. The mask, N95, protect your lungs. The gloves, and then also sturdy shoes. Well, not that, at a minimum. These are at the minimum.
So we're going to demonstrate how the buddy system works. So Jonathan and I both have our helmet, our goggles, and our gloves on to extinguish this fire. You can wear sunglasses if you have sunglasses. That's also a way to protect your eyes that some people prefer. But this is how the buddy system works. So you always want to use your buddy. You never want to go and fight a fire alone. And you always want to rely on each other, because when he's trying to fight that fire and put it out, he's not going to be able to see what's behind him or even what's to the side of him, because he's going to be focused on trying to put that fire out. So I'm going to serve as that purpose and that way for him to see kind of 360 around him, so he's not just he can focus on that fire, and I can focus on everything else that's around him. So
The buddy
Jonathan,
system, that's the way we operate in CERT. If you have a fire at your house, you don't go get your buddy, your friend, or your wife to back you up. You just put it out yourself. I just want to make that clear. That you can put it out yourself, but when we operate in CERT, we're operating in twos. Okay?
You also use it in the search and rescue, which we're going to be talking about in Unit 5 after.
yes.
All right.
So Jonathan's my fire extinguisher guy. He's going to be putting out the fire, and I'm going to be his buddy. So
You guys
what's
want it to be for us?
No,
Or?
No.
we're
I
gonna
don't want to wait.
So Jonathan's gonna hold the fire extinguisher in whichever way he feels
Can
comfortable.
we back
doing.
up a little bit, because we're going to be approaching it from this angle in the live, when we do it live. But for this one,
Line it up.
go for it.
Okay, we're gonna use that pass method. We're not talking to you guys. Just watch what we're doing.
Going in!
Going in!
Going out!
Going out! Yeah, I even messed up. I forgot to switch. So you guys have to remember these things. Very good. So now that we're at a station,
Now voices, going in.
Going in.
Hold
hold
close
the
to the end of the
nozzle.
nozzle.
Hold it at the base.
Yeah.
There you go. Hold the base. Hold it at the nozzle. Okay, have that firm grip on it. Okay, let's go. Okay, buddy, always look behind you, okay? Look at the area. Okay? So if you feel comfortable at that distance, then you can go ahead and start putting out the fire. Alright, there you go. There you guys go. Now we're going out.
Going out.
Okay, always look at hazards around you.
At the base, there
Very
you go.
good, very
Going
good.
out.
Keep your eye on the fire, Ignacio. Always with the extinguisher, you're keeping an eye on the fire. Just in case it reignites, you're able to say, hold on, it's not out.
Very
And you
good, you
can
guys. Very good.
Going out.
turn around.
Turn around.
Turn around, Diana.
Same hand, good job. Just
Yeah,
like that.
walk forward.
Very good. Okay, communicate.
Awesome.
Very good job.
Awesome.
Very
Switch.
good. Very
Going
good.
out.
Going out.
Going out.
Very good.
Really?
Going out. Going out.
Very good.
That's basketball.
Alright, close to the fire. Walk forward. Okay. Very good. Very good.
Going out.
Look at the fire. Look at the fire. All the way. Good job, guys. There we go. Just like that. Okay, then you're going to stop. Going.
Good.
Very good.
He wants to go out. You don't want to go out. I want to go out.
Going out.
Going out.
Very good, guys.
Very good job.
Communicate.
Going in. Going in.
All right. Very nice.
Going out.
Very good job, guys.
One more block, the weight doubles, it's 20,000 pounds. So, I mean, the way the weight is distributed on the blocks, it's actually really good, so.
So that's why it's important to place them correctly and to do it properly the first time so that you won't have a less chance of that, whatever you're lifting coming crashing down.
But in reality, maybe those blocks are not available. Maybe we have to make the blocks or
That's true.
some other material.
That's true. They might, I mean, you're not gonna have 4x4s.
I mean, I don't have cribbing material in my house. So if something was to happen, I have to use with what I can.
Right,
You know what I
you
mean?
would.
So
You would have to be creative. That's where it goes back to using your
Hard
creative
drive.
resources.
That's why
If things are collapsing, house walls are gonna come down, you'll have lots of material.
Yeah, exactly.
No problem, no problem.
I mean, if this beam comes down,
There you go. But see, I mean, you could go and, you know,
I'm
that's
gonna go
about
see what-
gathering
yeah,
resources
this-
and seeing what you have available to you. If you don't have those things available, which most people won't, you know, we have all these materials because we're teaching the class. So most people won't have, you know, the cribbing material. They won't have this available at their house trying to get, you know, their family members out. So that's why we try to, you know, teach you the blanket carrier, things that are practical that you would have at your house. So the cribbing material, it's just wood. And that's all it is. And wood is all around us in the buildings that may fall, the buildings that may crumble down. You may be able to find those pieces, you know, in debris. And you can use those, exactly, you can use those and improvise, you know, with not just, you know, already made cribbing material. So, but yeah, that's why we teach in cribbing, when you'll do it out there, outside, that you want to get it to a point where as you start lifting, it's not going to come back down, because you don't want to lift and then bring it back down on your victim. You want to lift and leave it at that point. So you want that material to hold it to wherever you've lifted it to, and then continue from there. And then when we bring it down, you're going to also have to bring it down because, you know, again, going back to 400 or 500 pound concrete, do you really just want to, you know, move everything and then run away? What do you think is going to happen? You know, it's going to come crashing down, and you may be a victim. You may become a victim from all that material coming down, and who knows what that might affect. It may cause other debris to come falling down. So that's why we want to lift, you know, to that point and bring it back down to the ground. So that's why it might be taking so long. But that's what the cribbing is teaching you how to do. So you always have to improvise, you know, be creative. So that's what we're trying to teach you guys, be creative. You don't have to use you go out and buy resources that normal households really wouldn't have. Like this, you don't have to go out and buy this. You don't have to go out and buy tons of 4x4s, you know, just waiting for an event. You just have to be ready. You have to prepare yourself now, even starting with the basics. You just have to prepare yourself now.
That steel bar.
That you
Big
like.
old steel bar.
You like that steel bar?
Oh, yeah, those are very good.
They're heavy. Those things are heavy. Those things are really heavy.
That's what I like to get.
No. The fulcrum. So that's what we're going to use to get the leverage to be able to lift this trash bin. If you try to lift it by yourself, there's no way that it's going to happen. What we're gonna do is we're gonna crib on this side and we're gonna crib on that side. We don't need to lift the object by all four corners. If our victim's trapped under there, we just need to lift it up high enough that we can safely pull that victim out. And so there are key positions that we're gonna need when we're doing cribbing. We need one is a safety officer. Who knows or remembers what the safety officer's role is?
Just keep an eye on, make sure that everything's safe.
Okay. If the safety officer says stop, everybody stops. Doesn't matter if you're the incident commander or if you're a higher authority person. If the safety officer says stop, everybody stops what they're doing. That means he saw something that he's concerned with that is going to jeopardize rescue or safety. So we'll have Wayne as our safety officer. We need also a team on each side to be able to build the crib. So we need one for the crib person and one that's going to supply. So I need 2 teams of 2. Nancy and Steve will be one. Mina and Julio will be the other one. We also need someone to build the fulcrum, and we need someone to supply that items to the fulcrum builder. So I need another team of 2. Okay, we'll have Anita and Joselito. And then we have a couple people. We have May, Grace, Maggie, Sean, and Mike that don't have positions yet, right? Okay, so because we could break it up into 2 different groups, but for the sake of time, we're going to be switching positions out. And so if we have a couple people helping out with other positions, we can do that. If we have a couple people helping out handing the materials to the crib builders, we could also have someone else work as another safety officer staying next to Wayne. This way, you're not saying stop and he's saying go. You guys want to be on the same page. So go ahead and partner up with someone once we get going. So we want to have the cribbing situated next to our areas that we're building. And so cribbing suppliers, go ahead and take some of the blocks to your area. Now remember,
The blocks, we don't want to take the whole thing.
you can take the whole thing. Remember, this has to supply for your cribs and for your fulcrum. So
the fulcrum, do you put it the center or is it
well, in this case, we're going to go center.
best leverage?
It depends on the object. Now, we're going to be lifting. If I lift on this side, that side's not going to come as high. If I lift middle, it'll lift both sides on this front side, left side. If it's a heavier item, we may have two fulcrums. Overhanging a little bit so that it's not going to slip off, and so we want to have a good sturdy surface to build off of. Now this is going to be our first leverage point, and we're going to get the bar under there. We put some of the blocks under there just to help get it off the ground. So now we're going to get the cribbers ready and just pull up the blocks. And what we're going to do is, if you cannot get a complete piece of wood under there, you can slide in the wedge, which will get to a certain point. When you're putting your crib in, you always want to have 2 points of contact on the object. If I have contact here on the back side, but not the front side, it may tip and teeter. And if you have your victim under there, that movement of that heavy object will continue to either crush or aggravate the injury.
Brian, excuse me. Me and my partner, yeah. What we should be doing?
Someone's on this, or
So you should be on that side.
no, one's building the crib.
I know.
They're doing the crib there. We can actually start. Let's pull these out. We can start. This you can grab on. Right? Take another piece. Down. This shouldn't move once it's to the point that it's at.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Hold on, not yet.
Okay. If everything looks
Lever.
good.
No.
compromised, so you can always do a quick lap around to make sure everybody looks good. If you have someone else that's not doing anything, you can ask them to go on the other side, so we can get Julio. Can you stand on the other side? Speak up.
Julio, can you go stand on the side?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So now what we're gonna do is once Julio gets over there, if everything on your side looks good, you can ask Julio, does it look good over there?
Does it look good over there?
Louder, he can't hear you.
Does it look good over there?
Okay, so now if everybody looks good, you say team ready?
Team ready?
Ready?
Go.
Start the other way. And you don't need to get the whole thing under.
Great. Just make sure your hands
Just
don't go
need to
underneath.
get just part of it under there. The whole thing doesn't need to go under. You just need to get part of it. Both blocks don't have to be under there. And then you have this one ready so that when you're going to build up, you have it there. You put another one?
If it doesn't fit,
If it doesn't fit, you got to shimmy.
use it.
Doesn't fit, you must acquit.
You got to leave that.
Yeah, that is the great.
Fit.
Need some more? No.
Push it in. Push in.
There's another one. On the back end.
It's not gonna fit. Right, another way.
Now, also, when you put the shim in, you want to make sure that it's on something. So if Chan puts the shim in, put it in, Chan. It's gonna.
Backstrap carry. Two-person carry. And the chair carry. And then we're gonna go through these actually right now. The two-person carry you would use if the person doesn't have any kind of injuries to the body, because as you can see, you have the one gentleman that's holding the victim by the legs, and then you have the other victim lifting them, under the arm, very close. But if the victim does have like some kind of injury to the leg or anything like that, or even the arms, you would use this one right here. Okay, and that would be same weight. Like if you were to be lifting this person from the top, or even the two people from the side, to lift them up and putting them on the chair. We're actually going to go ahead and do that right now. Let's go ahead and grab that chair. And if I can get Grace, if you don't mind being a victim. Okay, Grace, go ahead and have a seat. Who feels comfortable carrying Grace? You? How about you? Yeah? Okay, so go ahead. You can go right here. And you can be in the back. And then as you can see, the person in the front right here is actually grabbing the legs. You can grab the legs, but I personally like doing it from the sides right here. That's going to give me more stability, and it's not going to, the person's not going to be moving around and stuff. And then the person in the back, you're grabbing her here. And again, this method it's good to use if she doesn't have any kind of injuries to the, if she does have injuries to the body or legs or anything like that. So what you would do first, Steve, is you actually will tilt her back first, right? And then you grab her on the sides. You can do that if you like, and then you just pick her up, and then so now whoever feels comfortable either walking back, if you feel comfortable walking back, you can do that, or if you feel comfortable walking back. But usually it's the person that has the back support of the victim. Okay?
That walks backwards?
Yeah, that walks backwards.
So you guys want to lift her?
So you guys want to go ahead and lift her? Sure.
Take a couple steps back.
1, 2, 3.
There you go.
How's it feel, Grace? Fun?
You feel like a queen?
Take a look down and get
Okay.
All right, she was scared. Let's put her down.
Some extrication. They usually have these. They usually have these here, but since we are not, we don't have this. If we don't have this type of equipment, then we can easily use a blanket. And you know, if it's in a building, we can easily grab. I mean, in a house, we can easily grab a blanket and do it from.
Is there a weight limit on that?
This one?
I think it's like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
But if this is all you have, then you're gonna, work with it. But most people, they don't have these in their houses.
But it comes in handy, but the blanket would do just what this can do.
Yes, and I'm gonna show you. I mean, you're probably thinking, man, that blanket's so thin, and how are we gonna do it? And I'm gonna show you right now how we do that. Okay. Okay. So we have the blanket, right? And if we're to try to lift the victim from here, this is not giving us any kind of grip, right? Look at this.
What could happen if we use that?
Tear.
It can tear,
right?
and it's not going to give us the grip and support that we need. So say the victim's right there,
I'll be the victim.
okay? We want to just roll the blanket. You see how I'm just rolling it? And by me rolling it, I'm going to try to roll it as close as possible to the victim, okay? This here, you see my grip here? This is already giving me a good grip so that I can lift it, okay? So that actually right there works very well. And then the next one is going to be the blanket drag, okay? Same thing. Here, since it's the victim and the person that's rescuing the victim, we will cover the victim and try not to get the victim to move around or cause any other kind of injury to the victim. We will just come to the back and same thing. We just roll it. Roll it as close as possible to the victim. And this right here is already giving me the grip that I need to pull without getting the blanket to rip or anything like that. Okay. And then, so now we're going to go ahead and break into groups.
So groups of 6.
1, 2, 3, 6.
12
Okay.
people in here.
Okay, so 6 and 6.
And you have some victims in there. The power is out, even though you can see in some of the areas. And so we're going to have to do a search and a rescue operation. One of the things that I want to emphasize and really stress is that when we're doing the search and rescue are 2 operations. So if you have one team doing the search, all you're doing is locating victims and triaging the victims. The second team will be treating the victims and transporting the victims to the medical operations. And so keep that in mind, because that's somewhere where it always kind of goes sideways when we do these disaster exercises. So I want to make sure that you guys know up front and you remember that. The fire team, we don't have the fire plan out, but we have an area identified that has a fire. We have the fire extinguisher. So you can go through the motions, but don't propel the agent. Always keep in mind your buddies, and we'll have a few little surprises that may be thrown in there. So 7.0 earthquake, 8.0 earthquake, state's already downgraded. It should be in the council chamber and set up out there. And so if I can get the incident commander and his team. So that'll be John and Joselito, Zing, and May to follow me outside.
We need to send out a search and rescue team. You guys are team 1. Do you guys need supplies?
Flashlights.
Flashlights. Okay, just 6. Wait. Okay. How many team 1?
4, please.
4
flashlights.
4 flashlights.
They change out mine.
No. How many teams do we have? We only have limited.
When they're
We'll give you.
Or should they be checking back up? We'll send you guys out.
So do you
Stand by.
please put this right out that we needed to have flashlight to make sure.
You guys got 31 that you need. If you guys need any additional. Who can tell me what the purpose of staging is?
South of the council chamber.
Fire suppression.
On our way.
Okay, how many?
Whoa.
Yeah, no.
Don't jump in. No, you wait.
Fire
wait.
council chambers, man.
I'll tell you, the fire's that car right there. You see the fire on top? That's where the fire's at.
Fire.
You guys don't take anything. Chain of command.
Survey 1, ID.
Incident Command, can you send the fire team over with first aid equipment? Can you send the fire team and extra assistance to the teams at the back of the building? Tank is underneath him, so you guys got to somewhat move him. There it is.
Right.
We still have 2 victims inside.
Okay.
So let us take care of this one. Go continue on to the
Where
pregnant girl in the auditorium,
Okay.
back right, and then there's still the victim in the storage room underneath the.
Which one is the most
Having some problems with breathing. Are you okay? Can you hear me? Someone's jacket, so don't forget. Can you hear me? All right. We have to. Let's do mobilize. No, let's check them out everywhere else first. Well, they did a.
so original
Medical.
had to tell
Let me see where else he's start down on this side. Well, he's breathing now. We have to immobilize his head. So, go find me a board to put to place under his head.
board. On neck injury. Okay, then we need to support the neck.
Neck injuries. It's just got to be immobilized.
The cardboard or something to support. Oh, what we done? Maybe can we use the material like a paper?
No,
Easy or hard?
Hard.
Communication was good.
There's a lot of areas that can break down, and once it breaks down, it can go bad quick. And so, still, good job, everybody. You're practicing teamwork. Once you kind of figured out what was going on, and you started to regroup, and so that was good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use all the CERT team members. We'll put the tarps away. Take everything inside, then we're going to go back in the council chamber, debrief, and then we're going to do the certificates and we'll be done. We're running a little over.
We turned off the water, so should we turn it back on?
They left me for dead, but that was
Don't tell me you turned off the gas, it'll be weeks.
No, wait.
You were delayed.
Alright, so we gotta pick up the tarps.
pregnant women always priority.